Good afternoon, everybody. Fantastic to be here. A great opportunity to talk to you about customer service and its link to employee motivation. So first things first, to get things going. I can't see you that well, but I'm sure you're out there. So who this morning or yesterday had some bad customer service, a bad experience of customer service? Hands up. Who's had a bad customer experience? We've got a couple of hands down there. We've got some down the front as well. Yeah? Okay. Great. Who's had some fantastic customer experience this morning or yesterday? Anybody? No hands at all. No hands at all. It's easier to remember the bad stuff, isn't it? Yeah. So when it comes down to customer service and customer experience, as I've just said there, or I was just nicely quoted there in terms of by 2020, which by the way is not far away, customer service and experience will overtake the price and the quality of any product or service as being the brand differentiator. It is massively important. And more so these days because our customers, our clients, our consumers have more options and more choices every single day. So when it comes down to delivering great customer service, how do we go about doing that? So this next 15 minutes, I'm actually going to talk about the link between between motivation, employee motivation, and customer experience, world-class customer experience. So what does, if you have your employees who are not firing on all cylinders, they're not performing at the highest level because of the motivation is low, what does that mean for your business? What does it mean when you go to buy a product at 5 minutes before closing time and the employee decides, do you know what? I've had a long day. I'm going to close early. How does that make your customers feel, your consumers feel, your clients feel? Key things that start showing themselves. Behaviors start coming through when motivation is low, and we can see it in the quality of the customer experience that your customers experience. This is a sign from a public house, which is near where I live over in the UK. This car park is for use of customers only, underlined. Unless using the pub immediately, do not park here. Don't have to give me an answer, but how does that make you feel as a prospective customer or client going to that place? I don't know, I'm not really that impressed. It's underlined only. He's actually made a spelling mistake as well, which is not particularly brilliant. How motivated is the person who wrote this sign? So some questions we can start asking ourselves. The same public house. I went for a nice walk. I thought I want to drop in for a drink. It was a lovely summer's day. We do have sun sometimes over in the UK, so it was a lovely day, and I thought I'd walk down and I'd get a nice drink. Gone fishing, back later. Now, something tells me that person thought that was quite amusing, but as a consumer, as a customer, what's going on? I'm not impressed. Are you open? Are you not open? When are you going to open again? What's your opening times? I'm thinking he's not overly motivated at the moment. And finally, we waited 30 minutes, no service. This is the impact of poor customer experience in every single business, in every single sector. Obviously, a little bit more graphic in terms of that. I thought they did a very good job, actually. It was very good, wasn't it? But can you imagine walking up there? What was the person who was serving them thinking? They didn't even notice them. They had an opportunity to write that on the table and leave, and the person serving didn't try and intervene. So what is going on in terms of that employee engagement, in terms of that employee motivation? So what I'm going to do in the next, it's now 14 minutes, change the slide, is we're going to look at what motivation is in terms of energy at work. We're then going to quickly look at a case study that we've got from the UK. One of the biggest attractions in the UK we work with in terms of their motivation levels and how we work with them to increase those motivation levels. And at the end, got 3 key points for you to consider. And I'll make no apologies for these. They are absolutely as simple as they get. But sometimes when we're in the business, when we're doing the do, we forget that we've got to work on these things. Okay? So, motivation. Motivation is energy. It is energy at work. We are motivated in different ways, and we are motivated at different times of the day, the year, our career. On a score out of 10, think to yourselves, at this moment in time, how motivated are you? How excited are you to hear this bloke from the UK ramble on about customer experience? I'll score out of 10, just think, okay? And then when you arrived this morning, how different was that? When you leave later on, how different is that going to be? When you go into your meetings next week, what are your score out of 10 going to be in terms of motivation? So it changes. Sometimes we are plugged into the mains. We've got the plug and it sits right in the mains. And we're firing on all cylinders all the time. There's lots of energy. And sometimes we're on battery power. And what happens to battery? You probably sat there looking at your phones later on today going, oh, well, I'm down to 20%. I better find somewhere to charge. Is that what your employees are thinking? I'm feeling the energy levels start to drop in what I'm doing in my everyday work. And I know this because I'm seeing certain behaviors come through that are impacting our customers. So, energy. We actually can start to think about how we can score the energy levels as well through motivational maps. Now, motivational maps you may be familiar with, something that's created in the UK by a gentleman called James Sale. We use those to actually give us a percentage score in terms of motivational level based on 9 different motivators. Now, we all have them, and they all come into play during our career. They can move around, and actually our satisfaction level, our score out of 10 for each of those motivators can change as well. So that's really interesting in terms of what the culture is like in your organization. Are you seeing that impacting the motivation levels? And now we can actually talk about motivators, define it. Whereas previously, you may well have heard managers say, so what motivates you? And you're like, oh, I don't really know, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I quite like coming into work. I quite like a little bit of money. What else? Motivates me is leaving work. That's quite motivating as well when I go home. Yeah? So how does that fit with creating a culture of motivation and engagement? And we know that motivation plays a massive part of engagement. You can have engaged workforce, but actually how motivated are they? They can be engaged in the products and the services that you provide and actually engaged in getting their money at the end of the day. But actually, what does that translate into motivation? How can you see it in motivation? So the motivational part is key. And motivational maps, we use those to actually score that motivation and actually then enable strategies to be put in place for individuals and teams to make sure that they are working and being interacted with in the way that motivates them. So we gain our energy in different ways at work. These are the 9 motivators. This is what it looks like. We've got relationship motivators, achievement motivators, growth motivators. Okay. The relationship ones are based around things like the defender, so somebody seeking security. There's the friend, seeks belonging. The star, they like recognition, they like status, respect. You know, those people who have a different job title on LinkedIn than the one they actually have. Chances are they're motivated by that recognition and that status. I used to work in the pharmaceutical industry. There were so many people who used to be representatives out on the field, but they used to be senior representatives or key account managers, executive. Well, in fact, they were all exactly the same. But that's what motivated them. That's where they gained their energy from. Our achievement motivators are the directors. They seek power and influence. It's not in a bad way. They're not going out there to take over the world, but they enjoy being able to influence and control. The builder, it's about the money. It's about material goods. And the expert, seeking knowledge, mastery, and specialization. They're the ones who love learning. If you've got a course to go on, they'll go on it. Actually, given the opportunity to tell people about that as well, there's their motivator. There's their energy coming up. And then we've got the growth motivators, which are around the creator, which is innovation, identification, of the new and expressing creative potential. So they're off. They're away. They're never around because they're off thinking about something new and exciting. Yeah, it's almost that sort of new exciting thing down in the corner. The film Up, when the dog sees the squirrel all the time. Yeah, something new. Off he goes. The spirit, they're about freedom, autonomy, going off and doing things on their own a little bit. And then also searcher. So that's about purpose. That's about making a difference in what they do at work. So we've got 9 of those, and they can impact how our employees then engage with our customers. If we can identify where the top 3 are as a starting point, we can then establish whether they're gaining their energy in the right way. So what we did is we used that model in terms of our case study. So it's a top 5 attraction over in the UK. It's actually based in the south of England, in Dorset, and it's a museum that sounds really exciting. It's a museum about tanks. If you like tanks, go there. It's really great. Oh my Lord, how can you motivate people to go and see tanks? You can. There's lots of people who love them. There's lots of people who don't love them as well, and they go because their partners want to see it and their kids want to see it, and they don't really enjoy it. But how are they motivated when they visit? So it's an interesting way of looking at things. But it's a great attraction, and it gets hundreds and hundreds of visitors. We were asked to look at the operations team. The operations team are the guys who are the face-to-face, okay, in terms of what they do. They meet the people coming, they greet them, they guide them around the museum, they serve them in the cafeteria, in the restaurant. Okay, so they are at what you would call the coalface. They are doing everything for the visitors. So we'd seen that there's been a drop in a certain amount of customer service satisfaction. And as part of our role in our organization of Insight 6, we gain insight into customer experience. And we do that in a number of different ways, through surveys, focus groups, but also we look at things like mystery shopping. Has anybody been mystery shopped? Have they had those secret people come into your organization and write a report about you? Yeah? No? Not had experienced it? It's great fun. So you actually get a really good view of what the customer is feeling or the client is getting when they're interacting with you. And we do that through our reports, and we've got a certain number of metrics that we look at, and one of those metrics is customer service. And within that, we're looking at how great these people at the museum, at the attraction, were interacting with their customers. And they were pretty good, actually. They were pretty good. And their overall score was 73% customer service satisfaction, which actually, it's not bad. We see ranges from 50% to 95%. So they're sort of in the middle. But they wanted to get better. Their target they were looking for was 95%. So how did they get there? So what we did is we looked at the team energy. So there's 20 people in this team. And what we did is we actually provided them with their motivational map. So each person does a report in terms of what motivates them. Off the back of that, we then actually looked at the motivational scores for each person, and we enabled them to have a debrief session. So a bit of a coaching session around their maps. The motivational maps are fantastic because it identifies, according to that person's responses to the questionnaire, it identifies the areas that they feel are most important for their motivation at work. So we can get a top 3. So immediately the conversation is directed towards the things that matter to them. It isn't that coaching session where you spend an hour going round and round in circles trying to find out what this person does, what motivates them, why are they doing what they do. You actually can get right to the crux of the matter straight away and talk to them straight away about that. So we did that on an individual basis, but we also then took all of the responses and we put them into what we call the team map. So we can see that the different colors are relevant to the number of the top motivators that these people have. So we've got red, orange, and yellow. They're their top 3 motivators. They're the things that make the difference for them. And along the top, you can see we've got all of the 9 motivators themselves. There's a lot of data in there. And what we do is we enable the team to be able to actually self-analyze what's going on in their team. Why is it that perhaps some people aren't quite as motivated in interacting with their customers? We're seeing that the feedback we got from the reports, the mystery shopping reports, was that people were not being proactive in their interaction with the visitors. So that actually gave the visitors an okay experience, but okay is not good enough. In today's environment, you cannot be okay at what you do. You have to be great. So that's where this sort of thing makes the biggest difference. And we could see that there's lots of purpose and need to make a difference in that team. Fantastic. What a great place to start. So what do? We spoke to them about the vision of the team. What is it they're trying to do? What difference are they trying to make to these visitors? Because it might not be quite as plain. They're coming to see tanks. What great. But what is it? What difference do they like to make? They'd like to make a great experience. So they wanted to give The people who knew about tanks even more detail, but they wanted to give the people who were not as interested in the tank bit more of a full experience. So the children were enjoying themselves, the partners were enjoying themselves if they were not as interested. So that gives us a great focus for their purpose. And then we could also see they're quite high defender. So really, really into their security piece. They need to know what's going on. So how secure were their jobs? Was that making a difference to how they then dealt with customers? If they're thinking in the back of their mind all the time, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to have a job next week, how much does that impact in how you deal with your clients, with your customers? And this can be on an individual, but on a team phase. So we looked at all of that and we made a difference. What happened? They were looking at 95% as their target. The overall customer satisfaction score, after we did this intervention, which also included something called customer experience mapping as well, we could see the 8% increase in that motivational score over 2017-2018. We're actually waiting for 2019's data because we're still working with them. So we're seeing that move forward. We could see the actual customer service level itself was 14%. And also, we had an impact on sales skills. Because they were more motivated to be there and make a difference, because we found out where their key motivators lie, they then turned that into showing more interest in their customers by asking them questions. And when they ask them questions, they find out things about them. And it might be as simple as, wow, did you have a great day? Yes, I did. It's been fantastic. Where are you going now? I'm going up to the canteen. Brilliant. Don't forget to try some of the cake. It's lovely. Oh, all right, I'll buy one of them. It's an extra couple of pounds, couple of euros, whatever it is, but it makes a difference. And now those customers knew that there was a great difference. So, on to, just over a minute left. So, the key things to remember from our case study, if you choose to, of course. You may well have motivation going through the roof in your organizations. Fantastic. But if you detect some of those behaviors, hopefully, if you're working in B2B, they're not going around squirting tomato sauce on your desks, but you never know, it might happen. Make sure that you can actually think about how you can go about looking at this. So, key things. Gather customer insight. That's the first thing, because the motivation of employees, although they're your number one customer, impacts your customers themselves. That then has a knock-on effect to your bottom line. So from a commercial point of view, we know that actually you can make a difference with impacting customer service. You can see an increase in revenues. There is a link. Gather the employee insight. You probably do it already. Typically, we find a lot of firms do, but what do you do with it? Does it make a difference? Do you have those team sessions? Do you have those conversations? Do you link it to customer service? And finally, develop individual and team strategies. Something like the motivational maps is a great way of actually focusing on what teams need, because they're all different. We know this. HR professionals, we know this. And it impacts commercial side of things as well. My time's gone red. Thank you very much for taking time to come and listen to me today. I will be about for questions afterwards. So thank you very much and goodbye.